Hello, my book friends. It's the first week of September, and that means it's time to clean out the book box. The first book coming out of the box is The Coddling of the American Mind by Greg Lukianoff and Jonathan Haidt. Amazing book. I highly recommend it. It is not a fun read or a fast-paced barn burner. It is nonfiction, and it is written about the I generation, which my children happen to be in, and I found it really insightful and thoughtful and gave me a lot to think about moving forward. I would highly recommend it if you are a parent, and even if you aren't a parent of an iGen kid, but you are a parent of a younger child, it's going to give you some insight into the mistakes that we as parents made with the best of intentions that aren't really going so well. Highly recommend this if you are a parent. That's going back on the shelves. Next book, How to Be Eaten by Maria Adelman. I did finish this one in August. It was a rough start. I actually wanted to not finish it, but I pushed myself and I was so glad I did. It is a darkly funny feminist take on fairy tale heroines and the missteps and the horrible men in their lives. It is a modern take though, so get yourself prepared. It's fun, it's a quick read. I say fun, but it is dark, so I did end up enjoying it. I hope you'll give it a try. That's going back on the shelves. What's next? Oh, The Art of Teaching by Philip Doan. I have not read this yet. It has been in the book box for a couple months, but I'm not taking it out because I do want to get to it eventually. So I'm gonna leave it there. Talking to the Sky, Amy Mayo, a memoir of living my best life in a shit show. I just love the title. This was recommended by a friend of mine in Nashville. I have not gotten to it. I do want to get to it. I'm not gonna shelf it. I'm gonna keep it in the book box. What's next? Okay, A Different Sound, stories by mid-century women writers. I believe I picked this up on my last trip to Europe, and it's a lot of short stories. I've read a couple, I haven't gotten through it. I don't think I'm going to get through it anytime soon, so I think I'm gonna put it back on the TBR and come back around to it a little later. So that's a different shelf. The Writer's Guide to Using Brain Science to Hook Readers from the Very First Sentence, Wired for Story. I definitely want to get to this, but not anytime soon. So it's coming out of the box and it's going back to the TBR shelf. And that's okay. So what's next? Oh, The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. This is one of my Ann Patchett first editions that I have not gotten to yet. There's a lot of hype about it. I've seen it all over the internet, and usually anything Ann Patchett sends me is pretty wonderful. So I definitely want to get to it, but I don't think it'll be anytime this month. I've got a lot of traveling coming up, and I have some other things I think I'm going to get to first. So I think it's going to go back to the TBR shelf, and we'll check in with it maybe next month or the next. Next, Tom Lake, a novel by Ann Patchett. This is her newest novel. I did finish this. It jumped to the front of the line because I love Ann Patchett, and this did not disappoint. It was such a lovely story. It was like putting on a warm, cozy sweater. It's based on a family in northern Michigan that lives on a cherry farm, and the 3 adult daughters are home for a summer to help bring the cherries in. And they're asking their mother to tell them stories about her life prior to their father. And it is fantastic. That's all I could say. It's fantastic. If you're a mother, if you have daughters, I think you'll enjoy it, and I would highly recommend it. This is going back on the shelves, and it will probably be reread in the next year or so because I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too if you pick it up. If you do, let me know what you think. All right, what's next? Oh, I know. This is a book I've had for a while. It was a gift from my husband. He knows I love antique books, and he picked this up on one of his travels. It's by William Faulkner, The Wishing Tree. It is the only children's book that William Faulkner wrote. He wrote it for the birthday of a dear friend's child. I did finish it. It is sweet. It's a magical story about a little girl who goes on a little journey the night before her birthday, and it's cute. It's not like, oh, you need to go grab it, but it's a good book, and it's a great book for my my collection of antique books. I'm really excited that I have it. So that's going back on the shelves. And the last book in the box is Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. And as you can see from the bookmark, I've just gotten into it and I'm loving it so far. So I will definitely be finishing this month, and hopefully it will not disappoint. So as it's starting out really well. And it has, I've heard only phenomenal things about it online and on Bookstagram. So definitely staying in. Okay, so let's talk about the new editions. What did I get this month? Let's see. So let's open up. Okay, The Covenant of Water, a novel by Abraham Verghese. This is an Oprah book club from 2023. I'm a little behind on it. It is a chunker. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I think it is an epic story that spans generations, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see myself getting to this in the next 30 or 60 days with all the travel I've got going on. So this is going to go on the TBR and I'll come back around to it. Let's see what else is in here. Oh, Nina George's The Little Village of Book Lovers. This is just a little cute read. Look how little that is. Have you read any of Nina George? I have. I loved her little Paris bookshop. I just completely got lost in the books and the descriptions of the French countryside and of Paris, and absolutely adored that book. So I grabbed this one. It looks like it might be a good one for a couple-hour flight, you know, that kind of thing, a little quick trip. So I think it's going into the book box. We're gonna hold on to it. Hopefully I'll be able to get to it. Brene Brown, Atlas of the Heart. This is her newest book. It's been out for a while. I wouldn't call it new anymore, but I did not have it. And I've been thinking a lot about this transitional period of my life and the life of my friends. And who do I turn to in those times? Brene Brown, Martha Beck, those people. So I felt like it was definitely necessary to be on my shelves. Probably won't read it this month though. I have some other things I know I want to get to, so that's going on the TBR as well. Okay, the Tao Te Ching, a Qigong, I think I said that right, interpretation. Okay, this is something I wasn't looking for. I wasn't on the lookout for it, but my husband was listening to an interview with Rick Rubin, and he was talking about how this book was the most, what is the word I'm looking for? Caused the most change and impact probably, on his life. And I'm thinking, well, we got to get that. We need to read it. So I definitely would like to get to this in the next 60 days. So it's going in the book box. And the last book in the new bag is A Course in Miracles. Still has the plastic on it. I don't know if you've heard about this. I'd never heard about this book till a few years ago. I was listening to I love podcasts. So I was listening to a podcast, and I believe it was Kathy Heller that was talking about, she read this book and it was life-changing. So very similar to this book in Life-Changing, that I would like to read these before the end of the year. So they're gonna go in the book box. I don't know that I'll get to them this next month or so, but I definitely would like to start poking around in them and seeing what's all in there. So that's going in there as well. Now, the last 4 books I have out here are from my TBR shelf, and they were ones I wanted to think about putting in the forefront to read in the next month. The top one is Persuasion by who? Jane Austen. The reason it's on my TBR is it is one of the very few Jane Austen books I have not read. And I am getting ready to head to London to visit my daughter, and we are going to take a little excursion out to see Jane Austen's house in the countryside. So I'm very excited about that. I feel like this needs to be read, be a good book on that long flight from Dallas to London. So that's going in the book box. This one is not from my TBR shelf. It has already been read, but I have decided I would like to reread it. It's Finding Your North Star, Claiming the Life You Were Meant to Live. This was my Friday favorite for the first Friday of this month of September, because I've been talking a lot to friends that are in my stage of life, which a lot of things happen during this time. Your kids, if you have them, are moving on and moving out, and you are adjusting to not only a new home life, but a lot of us are also adjusting to new physical bodies with all of that wonderful menopause stuff that hits us all at the same time that we get to go through. And she asked me what would I recommend as the first book as she's entering into this period and trying to sort things out. And without a doubt, I think it would be this one. It's one of the first ones I read when my kids first went off to college. And that was, what, we're looking at 6-7 years ago. And I am entirely a different person than I was 6 or 7 years ago. Definitely different than I was when I first had my children. And I think it might be a good time for a reread. So this is going to be the first Read With Me book from the Coffee Clutch on my website, Simply Laura Lee. And I think I'm going to get started here in the next week. And I'll be posting about what I'm thinking, what I'm reading. And if you'd like to read along, go over, become a member of the Simply Laura Lee Coffee Clutch, and we'll talk books and parenting, mothering, education, learning, and trying to figure out this great period in our lives, because it is great. It's different, and sometimes it's uncomfortable and very hot, but it's still a great time, and it's a great opportunity to reconnect with yourself and what's important to you in this new phase of your life. So, North Stars going in the box. That was really long for the reasoning on that one. Okay, the other two I have over here are from the TBR. One is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. This has been on my TBR since the beginning of the year. My husband recommended it to me. He loves music and likes to read about musicians and producers and anyone in that industry and their creative process. So this was given to me by him. And the reason it jumped off at the shelf at me was because of this new one that was on his recommendation. So I kind of felt like, oh, if you're going to read that, you probably ought to read this too. But the book box is getting very full, but I'm going to slide it in there anyway. The last one I was thinking about adding is Elin Hilderbrand's The 5-Star Weekend. This is her newest and latest book. I started listening to her podcast. It is so funny. I can't even, I'll find out. I'll try to remember what the name is. I'll look for it and I'll put a link in the notes. It's really funny. She and a friend interview different authors, and everyone I've listened to so far is super interesting, and it kind of ignited me to get in that last little summer read before we move into fall. I know most of you have already moved into fall, but here in Texas, it's still hot, summer heat. So I think I will throw it into the box. I may have to put it on its side, but I'm gonna throw it in because I would like to read it before the end of the year. I've heard really good things. It's a fun read. So that's the book box for September. If you would remember, if you'd like to read one with me, I will be reading and posting on the Coffee Clutch about finding your North Star. Hope you have a great September with lots of reading. I'd love to hear what you're reading, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.